Welcome to the Money Pig Podcast, presented by Goodwin Investment Advisory, where our mission is to lead you to financial pig, peace, independence, and generosity. I'm your host, Tim Goodwin.
Welcome back to the Money Pig Podcast. I know you didn't expect to hear me say that because Tim always usually says that, but I've been promoted to co-host, as if you saw our last episode, you would already know. And so I get to do the intro now. So I think we're going to trade off. I'm going to have some demands.
Oh,
some things are going to have to change.
You are like red Mike and Ike's only or something like that. Only set the temperature
Hot
at
tamales.
68. Hot tamales.
Hot tamales.
That's
We
true.
like the cinnamon
You're
ones.
a Texan that likes the spice.
We got to have the cinnamon ones. Yeah, definitely.
Well, Joe, we are so glad. I'm so glad to have you as a co-host.
Me too.
And we, recently, I was talking to, it was just like a week ago. I realized that I was so rich that I didn't have to work for the rest of the year. It did happen to be New Year's Day at 6:00. I'm so rich. I don't have to work for the rest of the year.
The rest of the year. Peace.
Just happened to be the last day of the year. I literally had work till 5, and I was telling my kids that at 5:30
For the rest of the year,
Kids, your dad is so rich. I don't have to work for the rest of the year.
I am off duty for 6 hours.
Yeah. But speaking of the new year, this episode is called "What Could Cost You More Than You Expect in 2026?"
Probably a lot.
Yeah, right.
Probably
we
a lot.
revisit this year at the end of the year. We're gonna be like, yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah, constantly. So what could cost you more than you expect in 26? So Tim, I want to ask you a question. When you zoom out and you look at patterns, not predictions, because everybody's got a prediction, everybody's got an opinion, right? And we always do this thing around here, fun thing that we always do at the beginning of the year. We query the staff and we say, what do you think the S&P is going to be by the end of the year, right?
That's right.
We haven't done that yet, but we need to do that for
That's
26.
true. That's true.
And
We
have a
usually have
lottery.
somebody out of our team of 12 or more, get pretty close.
Get pretty close.
But the rest of us are all way off.
I know, which is why let's look at patterns, not predictions. Right. Because predictions can be wildly wrong. Okay. So when you look at patterns, not predictions, what are the quiet costs that you see sneaking up on high net worth families for 2026?
Yeah. So I think let's pay attention to the high net worth families part of the question, because I think depending on where you are at life in terms of income and net worth, I would have a different answer. But if I have somebody that's considered high net worth asking me about that, I'm going to say that what could sneak up on them, and maybe they don't realize it till the end of the year, like we were talking about looking back, is misplanning opportunities.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So, you've been there kind of crushing it. You're increasing your income, your net worth's increasing, you're building your IRA assets, your equity in your home's increasing. But you're missing opportunities like a Roth conversion, like a backdoor Roth contribution. Maybe you're later in life and you could have done a QCD, which stands for Qualified Charitable Distribution. Maybe you're missing the opportunity to start giving out of a donor advised fund and to stop giving cash. You're just giving cash. That's what you normally did. You've got a percentage of your income, you're setting it aside, but you actually have this non-qualified brokerage account of appreciated securities. You could be giving that. So you're just missing these planning opportunities because you're not you either don't have a financial advisor or your financial advisor is not really a comprehensive, strategic financial advisor.
Kind of telling you what you don't know.
Right. Which is something that we really try to do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only like 100 different things we could check with our clients every year.
Sure.
But over time, we get to know our clients and we know where these planning opportunities are. Right. So what about you? Any other ideas there around sneaking up on the folks or a planning opportunity that I didn't mention?
I think it's just start early and be intentional about the year.
Right.
Because it's like Christmas sneaks up on us every year. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay for Christmas?
But it comes on December 25th every year.
December 25th, it miraculously snuck up on me, right? So just let's be intentional in January. And I'm not talking about New Year's resolutions because those fall by the wayside. But it's like, it is a nice, fresh view of, well, let's be intentional this year. If we haven't been intentional heretofore, let's do it now.
And something like If you know what a Roth conversion is, if you don't worry about it. But let's just say you decide with your financial advisor that you're going to do a Roth conversion this year. Don't worry about what it is. You just decided that you're doing that, right? Well, for us as a team, we are looking for kind of the lowest point in the stock market to do that for you. So if we made that plan and then all of a sudden a couple of weeks later, the stock market tanks, we're probably calling you going, hey, this is a good time to do it. Let's go.
Exactly.
We were planning on doing it later for whatever reason, but now things have changed because the stock market's down. We're going to convert and it's going to be a lot less taxes for you. So again, if you make that decision earlier in the year, then you've got more time to execute that maybe at the best time or better time. I'm sure we won't time it perfect at the bottom, but something closer to that. So,
right.
Yeah. So, Joe, for families with $1 million or more invested, where do you see people unintentionally leaking money, not necessarily through bad investments, but through kind of overlooked decisions? How's the money leaking out?
I think this piggybacks on our previous question, right? Because that's
good because we have a pig here, the notorious PIG.
Right. It's right on
Speaking of
his
piggybacks.
back. There he is. I love that. I would say not being in that question, you have the word unintentionally leaking money.
Right.
Be intentional. Let's do some things like that. So for instance, you mentioned QCDs. That's one of my favorite tax hacks for people, right? So lots of high net worth people, a lot of times they've been saving their whole lives. They've been doing a great job. They do their 401ks. They've got a lot of pre-tax money. And consequently, sometimes required minimum distributions are going to come and bite them later in life, right? And they get what we always talk about how we do. One of our goals is to keep you from ending up in the highest tax bracket of your life at the end of your life.
Yeah.
That's just not.
Or even in your 70s where you still have a lot more time to go.
Yeah, you still got a lot more time to go. But like, oh my gosh, I pay more now than when I was in my 40s earning a lot of money. So this is not the best. So how do we be intentional about those sorts of things? And a qualified charitable distribution, for instance, we always encourage people to be generous with their time and their treasure and their talents. And this is a great way where we talk to people who a lot of times our clients are very generous and they're giving money anyway. And like you said, they're giving cash. Whereas they're going to have this distribution out of their IRA that they need to take. They don't even need to spend it because they might have Social Security going. They've got a pension going. They've got other passive investments that are giving them money. And it's like, here, I have this windfall of money. Well, donate it. That's a huge tax savings right there. So this leaking money to me sounds like taxes.
Right.
It sounds like if I'm not smart and I'm not intentional, I'm not getting with my CPA, for instance, and figuring out my estimateds, I'm going to pay more in taxes next year because I didn't pay through the year.
Exactly.
So to me, those are like leakage.
That's where I would feel like the leaking is coming from is let's say you've got your investments and they're growing. You've got a CPA that's helping you with your tax returns. You may even have a lawyer helping you with estate planning and legal decisions, but you're not aligning your professionals together. Okay. So when you bring those three professionals together, you can kind of think of like a triangle of 3 points. It's like the trifecta. It makes a much stronger team. So it's really great to be at a point in life where you have those three professionals in your life, but don't let them run on silos. Don't let the communication be entirely related to you. The advisor tells you something and you got to tell the CPA. The CPA tells you something and you've got to tell the estate attorney. Get them working as a team, even if they're not working for the same firm. And so there are situations like a QCD. If we do that QCD for the client, okay, it doesn't show up on their tax statement from their custodian, right?
Right. They get nothing.
They have to tell their CPA they did that in order to get the tax benefit. And so even though we're doing that to save the client money on taxes, if we didn't tell the CPA or the client didn't tell the CPA, the tax savings doesn't happen.
Right.
You've got to get those folks communicating. If you set up a trust with your estate plan, which I often look at like you created a fence, right? But did you put any animals inside of the fence? Did you put assets inside of the trust? So when you've established a trust as part of your estate planning and you need to fund that trust, and that may be assets your financial advisor is managing, you have to give them the documents from the estate attorney for them to retitle your brokerage account to that trust. If you don't do it, you have a trust, you've got nothing in it. And so what's even better for us is if we're working with that CPA or that estate attorney, they're often just handing those documents directly to us because that client has intentionally put us together, or we've said, hey, what's your CPA's name? What's their email address? We're going to start communicating with them directly so that when we realize $200,000 worth of gains for you on this trade, we're not just telling you and you're remembering to tell your CPA. We also copied your CPA on this in case it changes your estimated payments, like you were saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Joe, what assumptions do people tend to carry into the new year that could end up costing them more than they expect, especially around taxes, cash flow, or timing?
I tend to think assumptions, right? We all know what happens when you make an assumption. and when we do financial plans,
say because it'll bleep us out. It'll cut off our SEO.
But we all know what happens. And I always tell people when we're doing their financial plan and we got the software that does the plan and all that stuff, and I say this is built on assumptions, right? So we have to make sure we've got good info in, because if it's bad info in, it's going to be bad info out, right? So a lot of times your output's only as good as your assumptions. In this question, I see people assuming things are going to be like they were before.
Last year will be like this year.
Right. And they're not.
Especially with
because
the big, beautiful bill.
Are.
Yeah. The only consistency is change, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So over long periods of time, when we talk about, when you hear people, particularly we hear this from clients, like when there's a market decline, for instance, right? I wish we were prescient and we knew that the stock market was going to do nothing but go up this year, but we don't know that.
Right.
We could easily have a dip sometime this year. And then I have people call me sometimes and say, oh, but I think this time's different. This time's different. This time's different.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to come back. So there are some constants. We know it will always come back, but over long periods of time. But to assume that this year will be exactly like last year, it's just not
never the case
to happen. It's never the case.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier that like, give your example with the one big beautiful bill, that's going to make this year different.
Totally. Yeah. And you've got to just be cognizant of how does that change your taxes, your access to maybe deductions, the change in what is taxed at what rate and what opportunities are there. And so it's a lot, there are over 4 million words in the tax code. It's a lot for all of us as individuals to be up and up on that. It's a lot even for your CPA.
Oh, for sure.
By themselves, because they're worried about the part of the tax code that talks about the taxes you need to pay. But there's a huge part of the tax code, really almost 80% of those 4 million words are not about how much taxes you pay, but how to have deductions, the incentives that our legislators give us to make investments in the right places. And so that's something that you need to talk to your CPA about, but your financial advisor can really help you with. Those laws are changing all the time. Let's make sure you're taking advantage of those. Do any of those, sitting down with your financial advisor in your next meeting and saying, hey, the big, beautiful bill, does any of that apply to me? And it may or may not, depending on your income, but it's affecting change for a lot of folks.
Right.
A lot of folks.
Right.
Yeah.
So you asked me about the assumptions, right?
Right.
So I'm going to ask you, how does waiting to plan, waiting to adjust, waiting to have a hard conversation that you need to have, waiting to make a decision, how does that end up costing like real dollars?
Yeah. So I feel like this is that question that you ask like in Sunday school and like the default answer is Jesus, like that's usually the answer.
Oh, you play the Jesus card. You always win with the Jesus card.
You always win, right? So like if you ask this a financial advisor, like how does waiting affect what do you need to do? You need to make a plan. Like you're saying, you need to be intentional.
Yep.
Waiting, it often feels safe, but it charges interest. And I don't just mean the opportunity cost of maybe being in the better investments, but emotional interest, like we talked about tax interest. There's cost to waiting and not making sure that you are working with someone who is maybe seeing what you're not seeing, somebody that you trust that can help give you confidence about your decisions and making that plan and keeping that plan updated.
Where I see this a lot is surprisingly, not from like existing clients, because we are pretty good at making sure this happens, but people who are coming in who are considering hiring us, I am perpetually surprised by the amount of people who don't have their estate plan.
Come on, let them have it,
Don't
Joe.
even have a will. And they have adult children. And
Yeah.
I said, wow, you have been playing Russian roulette for a long time and you've been really lucky. What would have happened if you had passed and you had minor children and you didn't have a plan for who was going to handle the kids, who's going to handle the money, all those things. Okay, well, maybe now you've gotten to where you're about to retire. You've got assets now and you still don't have a plan and you don't have that buttoned up. And I have unfortunately seen, and we've gone this past year through somebody who came to us quickly and unfortunately passed and did not have their estate docs done, even though we were, in the middle of getting that going and it hadn't happened yet. How long is it taking to unwind that and figure that out and help work with that family to go through probate? And it is a nightmare. And so, that's like a super easy one to me is like, you need your estate docs done.
This is my challenge for the listeners and the viewers out there. Hey guys, next time before you get on a plane, pull up your estate documents and look at them. Because you said we're playing Russian roulette all the time. It made me think about that. I am about to get on an international flight with a friend, and he and his wife did this, and they pulled up their documents, and they've got minor children, and it was actually it was super touching. They asked Maury and I to be guardians. They realized they needed to make an update, and they asked us if we would consider being guardians of their beautiful, adorable girls. I love them so much, but. Obviously, that's premature and that's very rare, but I thought it was really wise of him that was like a trigger for him when he goes on a big trip. If he's on a flight, especially overseas, he double checks his estate documents. And we had a good conversation about them in terms of he has a will, but he did not have a power of attorney or a healthcare directive.
Oh, yeah. See, that's... Yeah.
So it's important. He at least had the will, but it hadn't been updated in a while. The kids are getting older, et cetera. So relationships change over time, who you've asked to be the trustee, the guardian, the beneficiaries, et cetera. And so I think it's a really important thing to double check. But that would be my trigger is either before you get on a flight, either go ahead and do those estate documents. But if you have them, you need to go update them. It was funny because he asked me, he was like, hey, what about your documents? Here, Tim Goodwin getting vulnerable again on the podcast. I was like, oh man, I did those like a year ago. Well, I pulled it up. It's almost been 3.
Right.
Now
time goes by much faster.
Time goes by faster than I thought.
Right.
But because he was looking at them, I decided to look at mine and just double check, mostly just the names. Of the executor, executress, the guardian, and the beneficiaries. So great.
So having that, and one more thing I'll tell people is like we mentioned this earlier. Like get with your CPA and your advisor early in the year if you can, and think about things. If you're going to be on the hook for estimated payments this year, you probably kind of know that. I'm talking to a lot of self-employed people, business owners, things like that. Like, guys, you need to be making your estimated payments. And
why, Jeff? Why is that?
Well, we had a meeting with one of our CPA referral partners, this week, and we were talking about that. And she was talking about how one of her biggest complaints with her clients is, hey, I told you to make these estimated payments and they didn't do it. Right. And then when we go file taxes, then it's like, well, you have penalties.
Yes.
Because you have late and you didn't pay enough.
Penalties also involved an interest rate that a little while ago was 8 or 9%. I haven't looked at it recently, but it's a much bigger hit on the interest rate for not making.
Doesn't that sound like stupid tax?
Yes, it does.
That sounds like stupid tax.
Way more than you're going to make CD or cash equivalent.
Yeah. So that's an idea of waiting. Like, well, I wait and, one, find out what should your estimated be, probably as best you can, and figure out and go ahead and make the payments. Anyway, those are just a couple of examples. Like right off the top of my head, if you wait, they're going to could cost you real money.
That's awesome. Well, Jill, let's wrap up with this last question here. For someone listening who's done pretty well, those are air quotes, pretty well financially, what's one area they should review now in 2026 so things don't surprise them later?
One thing I see a lot of times is maybe getting down into the weeds just a little bit is people who've done pretty well financially up to now have typically amassed a lot of money in an employer-sponsored plan, a 401k, a 403b, something like that. And they've been trying to save taxes because everybody hates taxes, right? Including me. Hate taxes. Yeah. So how do we avoid them? At all costs. And so a lot of times we live our lives avoiding taxes, which does not avoid it defers, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times we have clients coming to us later in life with very large amounts of pre-tax money. And that's it.
Because they wanted to fund that 401k with pre-tax, save some taxes.
They wanted to stuff it like a pig, right? And we tell them stuff it like a pig.
Yeah.
But
don't take offense, Notorious PI.
No, we love pigs.
We love you.
Love pigs. But the idea around like, let's do some strategic tax smart thinking so that potentially by the time we retire, if we could have the trifecta of some Roth money and some after tax money and some pre-tax money, we got a lot of levers to pull in retirement to help save on taxes over your lifetime, not just in a year. So one of the things to me is like, so one of the things like you've probably amassed a lot of money, but there is some strategic, like what tax types is your money put in? And maybe we need to do some planning.
Because there's a difference between play now and pay later or pay now and play later, right?
Big difference.
You can fund that Roth IRA. You're not going to save any taxes this year on your contributions, but it's going to grow, hopefully, over a long period of time and be tax-free. Yeah, you do it the other way around. You're saving taxes now, but then it grows and you got to pay income tax. I think that's great. For me, I think that it's my challenge for listeners and viewers is that to revisit your why. Not for like existing or working. I
love that. So are you saying you should start with why?
Start with why. Yeah, you might have heard that before. Shout out to Simon Sinek. And so I think for those of us that are in leadership or management positions, we hear this concept about start with why. But I'm not necessarily talking about strategy or I'm talking about the decision that you made to make whatever investment that you have. Your example is a great one of this. It's like, okay, why did you start funding your 401k pre-tax? Okay, let's revisit that why. That bucket's pretty big. Maybe we need to start funding the tax-free bucket and make the contributions go to the Roth 401k. That's great. I was just doing this myself where I was like, wow, okay, it's been a while since I started the 529 plan or this brokerage account that I have earmarked to benefit my girls, for weddings or whatever in the future. Okay. How much am I putting in there a month? Do I need to change that? How's that strategy looking? And other investments I have. I'm also trying to, when you fund your donor advised fund for, generous grant purposes, it has to be stock that's appreciated for at least a year and outside of an IRA, right? No point. Yeah. So, these are things that you could kind of go revisit and go, wow, I've been giving cash, but if you have a non-qualified account with appreciated stock that's been appreciated for at least a year, I need to revisit my strategy. Why am I giving cash when I could be giving appreciated securities? I know we say that a lot in a lot of episodes, but it's a shift that happens over time. So I think just revisiting the whys, and is that change since you started?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's intentional, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think if you walk away like from everything that we've said today, it's just be intentional.
Yes.
Rather than accidental, rather than let things happen. Just be intentional.
And I'll give you 2 ways to make intentionality easier. Don't do it alone.
Cheat codes.
Here's the cheat codes. Don't do it alone. Have somebody else, an advisor, a CPA, an estate attorney, a friend who's winning in life the way you want to win. And 2, have a plan. Have a plan and update it often.
Yeah.
Right? Just doing that one plan is a huge move in the right direction, but updating it on a regular basis is going to have an even greater impact. So
love it.
Awesome, Joe. Any other final words here on this concept of what could cost you more than you expect in 2026?
No, I think we've scared everybody enough.
Well, if you guys are interested in learning more about how we do retirement planning, if you go to goodwinvestment.com on our services page, we've got a really great page about how we help our folks with retirement planning. Please consider subscribing to our blog. That's for free. We just need your name and your email and you get our wonderful blog. We've got like 5,000 or more subscribers now to that, which is really, really cool. So check that out. And if you are ready to begin a conversation with us about our services, you can click on schedule a call, which is super easy to find because it's pretty much like blinking and neon on the website, but goodwinvestment.com.
Biggest button out there.
Yeah. So we'll sign off with gratitude, Joe. Something that I am grateful for is I do have a plan that I get to update, and I actually require my wife to come in to the office here once a year, and we sit down and we update our plan so that we're thinking about it. And I'm just really grateful that she's wants to know what's going on, wants to be involved in the decisions. So grateful for that. About you?
I'm grateful that the climate of GIA here, I mean, we're a small independent firm, right? But the climate here is that we all expect each other to do that as well.
Yeah.
We expect each other to
lead by example,
have a plan, be smart with money, and what's one of our core values, right? Be serious about money, but enjoy life.
Yeah.
And we expect everybody to be serious about money and, get your estate plan done and all those things. And I think that helps raise the bar. And I just like being part of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Thanks for hanging on, listeners. We appreciate you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodwin Investment Advisory is an SEC-registered investment advisory, CRD number 131193, and this episode is produced by evans.net. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or other investments. It should not be used as the basis for any financial decisions. The host and guests may personally hold investments mentioned in this episode. All investments involve risk, and past performance does not guarantee future results. Please consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, and attorney before taking action on any information shared.